Hello and welcome to Feedback for the week of October 20th. Today we're joined by Chris.
Hello?
Is this your first time on the show, or were you on when I wasn't hosting?
No, first time.
Look at that.
I know.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
They gave you the pass to make it back here.
They did. Yeah, I've got the keys to the building now.
I just like the idea that there's all these people that are trying to get on Feedback, where they just don't have the key cards to be able to make it into this part of the building.
Just a line wrapping around.
And we also have Matt, and of course, Abby Happy. Thank you, guys. So let's get to some news, because we have one very big game to talk about today. But first, a game that is synonymous with delays. Get
Car
this.
porn is delayed again.
It's been delayed.
That would be Gran Turismo 5, and it's delayed. It was supposed to come out on the 2nd, and now we don't know, but they still are saying holiday for this year.
Not necessarily for this year. They're
Well,
saying
yeah, holiday, which
season.
means it can push further than
And
this
many
year.
people have speculated that, because it's, also
Holiday
Japan.
actually just always means like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Ah,
What about
in the
Easter?
West.
not in
the
Japan.
West.
Oh, yeah, that's true. In Japan, it's
New
later.
Year's Day is the biggest day.
Yep.
It's, so that's why.
It's weaselly, but that might be what they're doing.
It is
addition,
easily.
Some holiday.
Obviously, Japan, actually quite a secular country. They don't really sort of have this, mad gift buying thing that happens around Christmas time. It's Valentine's Day. So I don't know if that's considered part of holiday, but
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Here's a car game.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day, kicking off the holiday season.
the game has been delayed. But Abby, why?
Oh, fine.
Polyphony made a
They
statement.
want to create. Yes, their statement was that they want to make certain that they are creating the perfect racing experience.
Okay, so we are what, mid October?
Except there's also been comments that it was actually to make it tied to the new XMB firmware update, because the current one has been cracked. So the idea is to make it tied to the next one that has not been cracked, so you have less piracy.
That's an interesting theory.
That's another theory that's floating around.
My theory was just like, hey, they can't print enough Blu-rays, because there's always kind of a bottleneck at the end of the year. I guess what I found so funny is there were so many "there's nothing wrong with the game" excuses.
Yeah.
I found it so curious that they would actually kind of concede that the game isn't there yet.
Well,
3 weeks before we're supposed to launch.
Well, except you've already got the guy talking about how he's like, yeah, I mean, 5's gonna be great. There's some stuff I didn't get in it. I'll put that in 6. I'm working on that. And he's like, will you stop it? Say the game is good.
It's really it's
Just say it's good and you should buy it and it's coming out and that's it. So we can stop talking about it. God.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I had to actually check my calendar to remind myself when it was coming out. I mean, for a game, even though I think for all of us in this room, we're not the biggest racing game fans, Gran Turismo was in the seminal experience. It's a very big game, and as we follow the industry, that's usually one of those dates that doesn't slip from my mind. But
Yeah,
this,
but
it
it's been
slipped
such
a
an
lot.
amorphous sort of long release road that no date seems that concrete.
It's kind of like have like if you've got chronic pain in your hip, eventually you just stop
Right.
noticing it. And one day it's gone and you're like, what happened?
Yeah. Why do I feel good finally?
That'll be what it's like
Oh.
when that game comes out.
I mean, as Morgan Webb eloquently put it, she just wants this game to come out so they can stop talking about the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we'll just
I
have
can't
that
even
one
remember.
week.
I've written so many previews of that game, and it's just like I don't know anymore.
For GT4, we put together video clips of me or Morgan talking about it from the moment it was announced to when it went out. I lost so much hair over those years. That was my
You might
do
need
that
to do that
again.
again.
that was my thinning period. So I guess one question is, does this delay actually hurt the game? It hurts the game in terms of sales they can claim for the year 2010.
No, I think if you're going to buy
That's
GT5, you are still going to buy GT5. I don't think.
Yeah, I assume so.
Yeah, you
too.
waited a light year, another minute won't
Yeah,
matter.
exactly.
Yeah, let's look at sort of the development cycle as a trip to Mars.
If anyone out there can tell me what I stole that line from, you win a cookie.
It'll be a little bit stale when it gets to you, but yes, we will make an effort to send you a cookie. All right, Abby, Halo Reach.
Halo Reach is getting campaign matchmaking, a multiplayer update, DLC, November 20th.
So what does this mean for those that are not in the know?
It'll allow you to play through any campaign level, despite how far you've actually gotten in your own game. New Team Snipers and Living Dead playlists. I actually don't. Why are you laughing?
It's a zombie game type.
Living Dead
Yeah,
playlist. I mean,
well,
Okay.
yeah,
Zombie
zombies.
game types.
yeah.
Everything needs zombies.
Is this getting out of control?
Yes. Absolutely.
The zombie thing? Yeah, we're getting there.
I mean, I love zombies. Abby loves zombies.
I
Matt
do.
loves zombies. Chris, do you love zombies?
I love zombies.
But I mean, it's like it's kind of like you got zombies in everything now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
let me just say, World War II zombies was a tough one for me to get my head wrapped around.
That was one of my favorites.
Nazi zombies makes total sense.
Nazi
to me.
zombies is awesome.
I guess
Yeah.
so.
I mean, anyone who's seen Dead Snow knows that Nazi zombies, you can't go wrong. So.
I mean, Boys from Brazil. I mean, it's just that kind of
Yeah.
the zombies.
Viet Cong zombies harder to get my head around.
I think I gave the wrong
Yeah.
date too. I think it's November 30th.
So
It's
World War
getting-
II, I think, is where you
Yeah.
keep that.
Okay.
November 30th, and
It
it's also
is-
getting 3 new maps for the DLC map. pack.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty good. We're what, 2 months out? That'll be 3 months
What?
following the launch of Halo Reach.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we're getting the DLC maps. All right, so good for all you Halo people. God, that feels so long ago. Halo Reach.
It
Does
was
it?
kind of long ago.
Yeah, well, it was like a month.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
had so
well-
many games to play in between.
know.
I know it is. I mean, no one's
I
gonna.
don't know.
I don't
A
think
lot
anyone's
has
sympathetic
happened.
to us, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
After this week, I'm playing Fallout. Everything seems a long time ago. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
Yeah,
It-
that's
26-hour
true.
marathon game session.
Okay. Speaking of zombies, they've shown up in our Red Dead.
Red Dead is like your bullet coming at me. Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. It's got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. 4 horses. It says this here says 4 horses of the
The 4
apocalypse.
horses of the
Which is
apocalypse.
way funnier.
They
You're
buck
going
the
to have to
rider
provide
off.
the man.
I like it that you're one of the horsemen of the apocalypse, but you have to find your horse and you have to break it, and then you get to be a horseman of the apocalypse.
Yes.
Oddly, that's sort of what happened in Darksiders. So, you know,
Yeah.
you can get your horse right off the bat.
Remember, Darksiders was originally called 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, like a long
Yep.
time ago. I wanted to call it 4 Horrors and an Apothecary because that one would sell to me. Back to you, Abby.
Unfortunately, they don't just make DLC to sell to you.
I know. They
I'm
should.
so sorry.
So Red
It would be a
Dead
really
puts-
interesting Guitar Hero pack.
So Red Dead has decided to kind of break its mythology and get some zombies in it.
Yeah, everybody's going. It's just zombies.
Good.
Just zombies everywhere. Jeez.
So it looks like that these horses, these horses
at the
have
window.
special powers.
Yeah, I can describe all of the 4 horses of the
Yes.
apocalypse.
And do it while not looking down.
No, no, I can't do that.
I can do it.
I mean, I could, but I don't know if any of these are specific to the, what's actually
They
in the
are.
game versus what would
They are.
be
This
our
is-
interpretations
No,
of the
they
4
are.
Abby's
horses.
general
this is
knowledge about
just
the
so
apocalypse.
awesome that I instantly memorized it when I read it.
Fine, do it.
Okay, the death horse is the big your tank horse. It leaves this crazy like a violent wake behind it that destroys things. You've got the famine horse, which is very skinny, except I believe it has infinite or very high damage. It can take a lot of
And
damage.
there's one. There's something that follows in its wake.
Is there?
Yeah.
Flies, I assume.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's insects.
Insects.
This is pretty good.
And then there's pestilence, which is all no actually
Say Harbinger. Say Harbinger.
actually isn't famine is infinite stamina or high stamina.
Yes, everlasting stamina.
Pestilence has like sores and open wounds on it and kind of trails
Ocular
like
hemorrhaging.
I was about to say.
Yay, ocular
The
hemorrhaging.
one time we were ever going to say this on the show.
means its eyes bleed.
No, we're going to bring that back now.
Eyes
Like
bleed.
Boner Jam.
And it has very high damage. It can take a lot of damage. And war, which of course
What is it good for?
it's good for leaving a trail of fire in your wake.
Aha.
Yay.
If you've ever wanted to do that, and who hasn't?
Okay,
You
so
still
What
didn't say
gives him
Ghastly
the ability
Harbinger.
to ride the horses of the apocalypse?
He's dead.
All right, fair enough.
okay, so yeah, I guess yeah, you're right. He's dead. But I once again, I'm just throwing it out there because I don't really have I don't have a strong feeling on this, but this does kind of violate kind of that sense of mythology that was inside of the game.
Good.
Good. You're
I've been waiting since GTA 3 for someone to take the open world thing and go crazy. Okay, like when GTA 3 came out, I'm like, because they made Body Harvest before that, and some people would rather you not remember that, but like that was like the proto GTA 3. And then when GTA 3 came out, I was like, well, I hope they do like one where like the aliens from Body Harvest invade Liberty City, and no one ever did anything interesting like that. And now finally, like Rockstar is kind of taking this game, which was a very straight up serious Western story, and they're just saying like, it, go crazy. Let's zombies. There's bats flying around. We don't care.
I think it's
like,
interesting that
great.
they're choosing to do it as their first real piece of single player DLC, though. I mean, the going crazy is one thing when you've had a couple under your belt already, but to have that be the first one that you really roll out.
I guess.
Isn't this great that like they're doing that in the sense? First off, like you're not just getting the same thing you've already played however many hours of.
Yeah.
And second, you're going to release that in the middle of the fall release season, you better make it something that people are going to pay attention
Right.
to.
Yeah,
like you got my
absolutely.
attention. If it was just a bunch of more cowboys and
I don't know that I
burglars
would
and robbers,
care.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd be paying
absolutely.
attention.
I mean,
This
I think it's a
sounds
great move.
awesome.
Now, I think what's also interesting is that there was a decision that was made not to continue the story playing the son,
Yeah.
but to continue the story playing the character that you played. I mean, that's a. I mean, when you kind of swap characters at the very, very end, you haven't really started the relationship with the player. It's like, oh, I so care about Offspring. No, I cared about John Marston. Because I
Yeah.
would have sent him a
Because he was a
copy.
badass. He was
I would have
awesome.
sent him a copy of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to tell him, no, it's not going to work out in that situation for you. I love it.
What would he play it on? It's old time.
That's true.
I
You
don't
need
know.
to send him a
He's-
DVD player
Send
as
him-
well.
send him
got
a
a horse that
Victrola
leaves
of the-
death in its wake.
Yeah.
He should be able to get a DVD player.
He doesn't have that yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're all out of time here with
Well,
the.
I mean, it's too
yeah.
late.
See, what you do is
That
you
point.
burn the audio from the movie onto a record, and then you send him the record, and then he'll just find a Victrola.
And then you act it out in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, they have the movie house.
And then
Finally,
you
Just
show, and then you
put
show
it
him
in
a
there.
flicker show.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
fun.
a show.
show.
It's 1910. We forget.
That's
True.
right. Yeah, see, it's getting close. Okay. So Redbox, this is those guys that have those kiosks outside of.
Yeah.
I don't see them much in LA. I assume because throwing a stone at it would be pretty easy.
You don't go to 7-Eleven enough. They're outside, like every
Yeah.
single one of them.
Really?
I was
Yeah.
just telling you that last week. You don't go to 7-Eleven enough, Adam.
I've never used one of these devices, but I mean, it looks like they're renting for $2 per night.
$2 a night, and I guess they're gonna have good selection of games. And how do
you
had the same
enforce
question,
that?
like, I don't know. I mean,
mean-
assume you leave your credit card information behind, and then they charge you. I've never actually used one.
Okay, we're gonna do an investigative piece.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Paul
send
is
you out.
nodding
Yes.
at me, and that means yes.
Chris is the new guy. We're sending him out to try out one of these things, and then he can't return it, and we'll see what happens to
I
his
live
credit rating.
right across the
Yeah.
street from that 7-Eleven, so I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's find out.
And I'm totally willing to put my credit card information
Ruin
to
your credit
Redbox.
rating for science.
Yeah.
Now I
Leave
know
that corporate card behind.
for the DVD industry, and I think this is even eating into Netflix a little bit. That when these guys rent the movies, that it actually has had an effect upon the market. I mean, do you see this having an effect upon games?
Actually, I don't know how popular those are.
Yeah.
I've never used them.
No. I've
Paul is again
Paul-
nodding at me and giving the thumbs up, which means they're
Paul's a big
very
Redbox
popular.
fan, I guess.
Paul, do you use it?
They're just very popular.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? They were talking about it on the
We're in a
on
red
the
shirt
NPR.
too. I think there's something going on.
Yeah. See, when I was looking at our news stories, I actually thought it was Redbook, the women's magazine. I thought they're renting video games.
And how do you think that'll affect the video game industry?
I don't know. It's like when that guy wrote me the email saying that I should be eating soup over at somebody's Burger Shack, and I thought, well, that's a strange business model. Burger Shack selling soup. God, why can't he just say he wants to rape me?
I
Moving
don't
on.
know.
Connect.
Yeah, Kinect has 17 launch titles.
It's a hell of a segue.
Oh, angry phone calls
Not gonna
start
say.
now. Yeah, Kinect has 17 launch titles. Everything from Kinectimals to Dance Central.
To a lot of workout games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so much working
I
out.
mean, right here, Your Shape, The Biggest Loser, EA Sports Active,
Zumba.
Zumba Fitness. Is Zumba? I guess I was thinking of Zynga.
Yeah, that's
I
different.
was
That's totally
That's
different.
a really, really, And
Yeah, Your
they do
Shape.
have the Sonic game, and obviously Dance Central. Those are some of the more high-profile ones. I think at least for
Adrenaline Misfits.
Which is, I mean, it's essentially you're still going to be moving, so it's partially a workout.
I do like the little note next to EA Sports Active that just has in parentheses includes heart rate monitor.
is that a safety measure or is that?
I just picture flatlining in my
I
apartment.
mean, okay,
so-
well, let's take a look. We're not going to go through all of this. Obviously, there's some of the first-party stuff like Connectimals.
You didn't get the defibrillator add-on?
right. That's an additional peripheral.
I have a question. Where are the games?
I know that's what I was about to say. I mean, what we're seeing is maybe we're seeing titles here that can be grouped into probably like 2 or 3 different categories. Something that's very exercise
Something
oriented.
I don't
Yeah.
care about and something I really don't care about.
Stuff that seems to be
Except Dance Central.
Dance Central.
I'm in. But
I mean, I'm gonna. It's the holiday season, so we'll be having some parties. I have every expectation that Dance Central will be coming out, but God forbid, I am not. I just had an image of my wife walking past my man cave and seeing me just kind of engaged in an intense Dance Central
Hey,
thing.
neighbor, I'm right down the street. If you want to come over and play some Dance Central,
Yeah, maybe
we can form
so.
our own crew.
You know what?
Everybody's welcome
gonna
to come
get
on
one of
by.
those I'm going to get one of
Do
those
the endless
tops.
set list.
I'm going to get one of those tops that's off the shoulder.
Help me.
The
And leg
endless
warmers.
MTV grind.
Matt,
Yeah.
you know with that?
What?
Leg warmers and off the shoulder shirts.
Sure.
Oh God! If any of you show up wearing that, I'm going to post a video on the internet.
But I mean,
You're going to do that anyway.
do you guys think that what we're looking at in terms of these titles? I mean, this is kind of what we've been talking about for months. I mean, we don't see that kind of growth title. We don't see that definitive title that says, "Hey, this piece of technology is truly distinct from the other motion control that's out there." I mean,
Is there like Move at a pretty soft launch, like in the sense that like you went into the Halo store, Best Buy, and like you're like, wait, Move is out? It's like, yeah, look at the end cap in the back behind the people we stood in front of it to hide it from you. It's just like, and you look over and like, it looked like third-party peripherals. It looked like some place you'd stick like a bunch of stuff that like no one really wants from Mad Catz or something. And like in the end, you're like, this is it didn't strike me the way the stores presented it as being like a first-party big deal.
And you know what's funny is that when you and I were in England together, the game stores that we went into at least had it front and center.
Yeah,
there was no
Yeah.
fanfare surrounding it, but it seemed pretty prominent. I think we're going to do this on feedback until the launch of Kinect. Has anyone seen a TV ad for it?
No.
Has anyone seen a billboard for it? Does anyone see fly posters on the walls?
It was on. What was that show? It was a show, a sitcom.
Yeah, no.
How I Met Your
Seen
Mother.
with some
I've seen
people
product
and-
integration.
Yeah, it was on. Like somebody had bought it and was
Yeah.
carrying it in a scene with an Xbox.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it was seen on Entourage. It's been seen on a handful of shows.
Being seen on Entourage actually help?
No.
That's an awful show.
A lot of the thinking behind
Or it's a
product
decent show
placement-
about awful people, and I can't tell the
Right.
difference anymore. I have no idea. I just
Okay,
can't
I'll put it
stand
to you
any
this
of them.
way. I can't pass judgment. Given what I've decided is a career choice and expanded cable to see that show, it just leads to dissatisfaction for the rest of the evening. Let's put it that way. All right. So yeah.
We're not a good enough entourage for Adam. That's what he.
Yeah.
That's what he means.
Oh man, I'm so hurt.
That's just like you guys.
It just really disappoints me to know that I would be
you guys are
turtled.
better
Why
than
don't you
people.
just do the news now?
Fallout New Vegas.
Yes, it's a game. It's good. There's some DLC coming, announced today. Non-specific DLC, so you
But
know.
I think the one notable thing is how you can access it, or where you can only play
Only
it.
on your
Yes,
360.
only on the Xbox 360.
So even though we got a sort of a universal launch, was that true for
But there's a
Fallout
lot
3?
of time stuff where, like,
Yeah.
later on in
It's
a
the
few
same with
months, it'll be
Fallout
on
3.
PS3. It just, you know.
Fallout 3 had the. Well, it's not the PS3. The PS3 people seem to have kind of expected this. I've noticed the PC gamers are more upset about
PC
it.
gamers getting up in arms?
I know. Well, to be fair, they've had a hard the last couple days with this. I mean, I knew a lot of people, some people over on the East Coast who went to a store at midnight and bought the game on PC and came home and sat down and put it in their computer and said, "You can't install Fallout New Vegas. It's not out yet."
They'll
It
get the
didn't
DLC
activate.
eventually.
It didn't activate on SteamWorks until midnight Pacific time.
Ugh,
Oh.
awesome.
So people on the East Coast were just sitting there with copies
West
of the games
Coast
in their hands.
rules. Sorry.
West
just wanted
Coast,
to-
West Coast. Yeah,
Yeah.
but really, it's like if you're going to go to the trouble of buying a game on PC, like these people, you're going to go crazy with all this DRM stuff. You could have the decency to unlock that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right.
Thank God, Bethesda, you're on the East Coast.
I mean, this was a little bit of a no-brainer anyway. I mean, you knew they were going to support it with DLC. They supported Fallout 3 with some, I think, some of
lot
the
of
most
DLC.
effective DLC for any one game
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
released so far.
And also
just kept coming.
one that addressed
Yeah.
something that they were so easy to admit was not the wisest decision, which was to actually give the game a proper ending instead of
Right.
throwing you back out into the wilderness.
Absolutely.
But you know what? DLC really doesn't mean anything if you don't know how good the game is that it's going to be attached
Yeah.
to. So how about we move on to our game of the week, Fallout New Vegas. Chris, you were given a very, very narrow window of time to evaluate the game. But I mean, what is your overall impression of it?
Well, I think there's a lot to talk about, but I mean, overall, we gave it a 4 to 5 in our review. There was a lot of debate about the score. I think it's sort of a low 4, if you can say that. It is a robust. It is as robust as Fallout 3. It's got everything that you wanted from Fallout 3 in it. It's just not as.
It is one of the
technically
glitchiest
polished.
games
it's
I've ever
absolutely
played.
one of the glitchiest games I've ever played. And I think it lacks some of the sort of finesse in the writing of the subquests and the plotting of the subquests. You can say what you want about the main story in Fallout 3, but that game, the meat of that game was the subquests, and every single one was compelling and interesting. And here, the real subquests of the game are sort of light and airy, and go fetch this, or go find my family, or go here, and then come back.
I've not played as much as you, but I was just gathering that there seemed to be more side quests than there were in Fallout 3.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think,
is that what the trade-off is?
I think a little bit. I think what ends up happening is that it's a smaller landmass with way more in it. The problem then being that every quest is a little less substantive. So, for instance, where you would have the one quest in Fallout 3 where you went to the town and you helped them from these raiders, and then you found out that the raiders were coming from the subway, and then you went down to the subway and you found they were vampires, and you had to save the kid and bring him back to the town, like, which was a substantive thing. It's like here, it's like, oh, my family's in a camp over there. Can you go over there and get them for me? And it takes 5 minutes. And then you come
I
back.
have some pretty epic ones actually on mine. Like I have one right now that I've been working on for probably a day. I've been doing other stuff in between, but it's tied to my companion.
Yeah,
and
the companion quests,
it's pretty burly.
The companion quests are actually the most substantive in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that you just sort of find out in the Wastelands, I found were sort of less interesting than the emotional bond that you actually end up making with your companion.
Yeah, like I like my companion so much that I don't ever want her to go away.
No, yeah,
like,
I mean,
she's awesome.
I would never trade my friend in this game.
That sounds
Who's-
like a
who's your friend?
codependent or
Boone?
dependent.
No, see, I have Veronica, and she's awesome. She comes with, like, she's like in a little hood and everything, and she has like this like power glaive, and she just punches people into oblivion.
Oh, is that what she does?
My mysterious stranger and her hit a dude at the same time and seriously knocked him about a quarter mile from where I
Oh,
was
geez.
standing. But she kills everything. She just runs ahead, and now you get the XP.
Yeah.
When they don't do that, so, or when they kill people
Right.
instead of the last one where Fox stole all of my goddamn
I'm sorry.
XP.
when Abby said "my mysterious stranger,"
yeah.
Perk. Perk gets a perk.
I suddenly just kind of saw the cover of a V.C. Andrews novel in my head.
Nice V.C. Andrews reference.
Very nice.
Ding.
Yes.
Actually,
But she's funny too.
as we're getting to the companions, I mean, one of the things there are some very substantive sort of gameplay. I don't want to say advancements, but elements that have been added to the game. One of them is companions.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of crafting for your ammo.
Yeah.
And is there anything else as well?
No, I think the companion. Well, certainly the companions aren't necessarily an addition because you've been able to get
Yes,
them for a
but they
while.
really
But
seem
the
to have turned it into
mechanic,
something,
the
yeah.
mechanic that they used to interact with them is light years ahead of where it was in the last game. The crafting kind of for me, I'm a gunner, strength, lockpick, speech kind of guy. If you're a repair intelligence person, then the crafting might be useful for you. It really hasn't been for me. So.
Okay, so there actually is enough stuff out there in the wasteland.
Yeah, I
ammo,
mean, if you
so-
want to go and do that, then. But there's also the two perks: the one that allows you to find more caps and more ammo.
Yep.
That basically make crafting sort of not necessary if you choose to get those.
I think one place where like the crafting does become an issue though is like I started to run into early on the rad scorpions, which are armored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you want to use the armor piercing, like that's where I'm like, oh, that's why I can make armor piercing ammo because a little shield thing flashes up, and I'm like, a whole clip of laser ammo has
Yeah.
just done two ticks of damage to this thing, and now I'm dead. So like the crafting seems to be important in terms of making sure you have enough ammo to handle each enemy type.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you, I mean, like I was saying, if you sort of modify your strength and you choose your perks wisely, and you have a companion and the
I've
mysterious
not had to
stranger,
kill anyone for
like,
about 5 hours.
Right, like that, it becomes less necessary. So
But
that-
it's there if you want to exploit
yeah,
it.
The other element, once again, I've only got to play the beginning of the game. I'm doing a review of another very large role-playing game that's coming out next week. Was putting on certain outfits gave you certain fidelities to certain groups in the game.
This is actually one of my big pet peeves. The armor system is really nice in that you can get allied armor with each faction. So if you would rather not go into the Legionnaires camp and shoot everybody there, you can throw on some Legionnaire armor and walk in. They won't know who you are. Problem being that the game doesn't necessarily do a great job of telling you what armor you're wearing at the time, and there's not a lot of neutral armor to be found. There's some, but
Really?
not a
Because
lot.
mine always pops up like you're just remember you're
Right.
wearing Legion armor,
But
and
it's not that frequent. So I've found that if you're just sort of wearing it to get from point A to point B because your other armor's broken or whatever, and you stumble across an NCR and you're dressed as a Legionnaire, he'll start shooting you and you'll gain infamy immediately for defending yourself. So
Yeah.
it's a little tricky. It's a really cool mechanic and there's some great uses for it. I think maybe aside from just the occasional reminders, they could have done something a little more concrete to remind
just
you
right
what you're,
there, just
what
up,
you look
up on
like.
the screen. The whole faction element. I mean, you could obviously there are certain people that liked you and didn't like you in Fallout 3, but this is really kind of a very core element of the game.
Yeah, it's much more pronounced. I mean, in a lot of ways, Fallout New Vegas it's an incredibly political game. I mean, you have to figure out who you want to ally with, whether you want to ally with the fiends out in the environment, the cons who are sort of like the biker gang of the world, the
jerks.
Yeah, the Legionnaires, the Caesar's Legion, the NCR, and each of them, the Caesar's Legion and the NCR being probably like the black and white on the
Right.
scale of morality for the game. But there's a lot you can manage to piss off people accidentally, and
Yes, you
a
can.
lot of people, and you can just end quests by. You'll get some object or you'll kill some person and it'll go, you failed a mission. You'll go, I didn't even know that was a mission that was available to
I
me.
haven't had that as much as I've had missions that were over, but I didn't get credit for them ending, and they didn't carry on. Like, I mean, the glitchy. It's a good time to bring it up. The glitchy stuff in the game is. I felt like I was
Astounding.
beta testing it, and
absolutely.
And I was actually the last person on staff to have hard crashes. I just ran into it yesterday twice. And I was the last one. I was like, I'm like 20 hours in, and
Yeah.
it hasn't crashed for me yet, guys. Bam.
I had 4
So,
hard crashes in the first
don't
5 hours.
talk.
Yeah.
I guess I find it even more odious outside of hard crashes because a hard crash, in theory, you reboot and everything's still there.
Yeah.
But
Right.
the idea that suddenly, when you're investing a lot of time in this game and suddenly you're not having missions complete for yourself, I mean,
Well, and that's where I
really-
got really bothered. But the other thing that really pissed me off is I was doing a bunch of quests for my companion, and I'd gone back into this one area that's sort of locked off to you if you're not doing that, and I couldn't get out. And I tried everything. I did every part of the mission that was in that area. I went back and forth. I ended up having to reload and lose about a half an hour of progress just because there was actually no way out. It was glitched because
Yeah.
I went back and I did it again finally, after saving frequently. And it was fine. And it let me out, and I'd done the exact same thing. So it was just...
I've taken train rides when I haven't been on trains. Like I'm just walking near the monorail, it will just suddenly start a load screen as if I'd gone into and activated the monorail.
Wow.
My favorite glitch being, have you seen the amorphous mailboxes that try to attack you? That stretch,
that's
and
awesome
that
sounding.
stretch and distend
so cool.
like agents in the Matrix changing into something else. It was like a mailbox, and I turned my back, and all of a sudden I heard this like wow weird noise, and I turned around, and the mailbox was growing and coming at me, and it was identified as a rad scorpion now that I could loot if I clicked on it.
Whoa. That happened
Yeah.
to my character's neck when I died. It did you see this one yesterday, or was it Rob? It just stretched out into like this long, and it was so bizarre looking.
I think
It was
there's
really
just
weird.
that, like the hard crash, every time it's ruining kind of my enjoyment of it in some ways where, because the game, by nature of the engine, stutters a bit sometimes, and sometimes
Yeah.
there's a pause when it loads things or it auto saves. Every single time it does that, like I get a little twinge of panic of like, when was the last time I saved? How much am I
Yeah.
going to lose? What's going to happen? Like, did it free? And it's just, and you're killing me,
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I'm OCD now.
and I think one of the
There's no quick save on the controller. I could have sworn
No.
when we saw this in Vegas earlier this year, they had mentioned there's a way to quick save it. I mean, there's.
no, yeah, you got to
that
go
I
in.
thought.
You got to
I
go
was
in and
gonna
saves directly from the menu.
Anyone know? I guess it's too early to know if these problems actually are on the PC as well. But obviously, just for that F6, there's a reason.
A couple people I know have had a couple of crashes on there.
Yeah.
But again, you have the advantage on the PC of you can get fan patches even if they don't fix it
Yeah.
officially. But with the console versions, you're stuck with what you got.
So, granted, we do know that the Gamebryo engine is a little bit,
A little bit.
like that. But this begs the question: how did the game go out like in this shape? I
Yeah.
mean, every single person here at G4, which is the only world I know of, is having trouble with this game. I mean, did no one actually try it on a retail kit? I mean,
An Obsidian
it-
game with bugs? You're kidding.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, Bethesda's publishing it. It's a very, very major franchise. It just
Yeah,
to me,
I don't
it's a little astonishing, and I just can't accept the fact that level of cynicism exists. That somehow it was
Right.
known that it went out there, but it did go out with this pervasive problem. In it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is more, and I have played some really buggy games recently. I mean, I know it was something that came up when we were talking about Medal of Honor, and the single player. It's something there's been a few others recently that I've run into, a couple things that are coming up, and it's amazing. I literally at points feels like it was never beta tested.
Yeah.
Like never,
And not just,
quality,
like-
no QA, nothing.
Not just the glitchiness of it, just like from a purely technical standpoint. I
Yeah.
mean, there are huge pop-in issues when you're walking through the.
I had a whole building
I've had
pop
tire
in.
in buildings appear
Yes,
right in
out
front
of
of my
nowhere.
eyes. Yeah.
And the thing is those kind of glitches don't necessarily bother me because they don't
doesn't
really
get in the way of
affect my
playing the game.
enjoyment of the
Yeah.
game.
It doesn't get in the way of playing.
If somebody's kind of floating weirdly in the environment or
Right.
stuck in something and all of that, sometimes it's really funny.
Well,
and
also,
sometimes
I don't like it when it's
in
my
open
companion.
world games, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's unreasonable to expect an open world game to be
No.
free of clipping, free
Yeah.
of just kind of
no,
quirky things
and I
like that.
don't. But the amount of game ending and mission
Yeah.
ending glitches that
and
I've run
things that
into
are not like
is upsetting.
things that are not like things I've had things like that happen when I'm not doing anything that I would think is unusual. Like
Right.
where I happen upon like an RV trailer in the desert, and you come over it's a ramp to get up on top of it, and there's a hole in it, and I'm like, oh, I bet I can drop through that hole, and I drop through the hole, and I just keep on dropping through the world forever until it freezes, and I'm just like, why did that happen? And then like I went and did it again, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So what I do? Like what?
Now, also,
It just creates this paranoia.
Fallout 3 was, I mean, there were issues with
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but nothing on the level of what everyone's describing.
No,
I
this
mean,
is-
what
this is regression
What
on
is
some level.
different with this game, even though it doesn't look like the technology's been that adjusted, and obviously no one said, hey, let's make it less stable. I mean, do you have any ideas what's happening inside of this game that could be
I'm a
causing
little
such problems?
curious if it has something to do on some level with how compartmentalized Fallout 3 was, with the subway systems, with having to sort of travel to individual areas treated as individual arenas, as opposed to having a larger expanse of just open environment that's populated by how many buildings. And I mean, they do sort of wall off a couple of sections in the game so that they're individual loaded environments, but the difference being is that if you see something in the distance, which wasn't always true in Fallout 3, you can get there. You could probably walk there. And that's a lot for one open world to have and process at one time, I think. So I'm curious if it has a little to do with
I mean,
that.
it's interesting.
I don't
that everyone keeps on saying, oh, when is there going to be a new console? Do you think there's a new console coming? And I keep on saying no. I don't think there's going to be. But I also have said, I don't really see what we would need a new one for. Well, I mean, the thing is, open world games tend to have these problems.
Yeah.
And that, we probably, if anything, given the popularity of the open world game, I mean, this might over time force the issue.
Maybe, but I think-
that's
Yeah,
something
but
that
then
could-
again,
This is more
this
this
is
engine.
the engine.
Yeah.
This is the Gamebryo.
Yeah.
I mean, this is move on from this. Has always had these issues. I mean, there was some of these issues in Oblivion and in Fallout 3 and in this now, and it's just.
But with Fallout 3, we were coming in and sharing our amazing stories of the wasteland, not
Right.
exactly what
this
crazy
is definitely
happened to us.
This is definitely a step
glitch-wise.
backwards in terms of stability, no question.
Yeah.
Especially considering that Fallout 3 has eventually had itself kind of patched up to a point where you didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
also,
I hope they will be patching
I would have to
some
assume they
things
will.
in this one.
but I mean, it also bears mention that it's also a step backwards with regard to storytelling too, and just overall game making. I mean, I think there are some interesting and cool features that in Fallout 4 might be totally fixed and amazing, but right now it's not at the level of Fallout 3.
Well, and there's also something I wanted to ask about, and originally Abby made fun of me for this, but then I think she agrees now, is when I started to play it, I'm just like, because one of the premise is that like the nukes didn't hit Vegas, they didn't hit that area.
Looks like it.
And like
it
it's
looks
just
like
run
anyway.
down because it's 200 years
Yeah.
since civilization ended. But you're out there, I'm out there in the desert, and I'm like, this is just the California desert. Like this is just the Mojave Desert, like the burned out trailers and the destroyed car. I'm like, yeah,
that's pretty much
you
what it
just-
looks
You
like.
drive
Yeah,
east towards
that's-
Vegas, and that's what
what
you're
it
going to
is,
see.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
once you
so
hit Palmdale,
it
you're-
wasn't like that kind of surreal, otherworldly feeling of being in the capital wasteland or like
Yeah.
the destroyed areas in Fallout 2, where you're like, where it felt like science fiction. It felt like another world. It felt
Here
like
it's
something
like
had
somebody
happened.
left me near
Right.
Barstow.
Where
Yeah,
you
we're
saw
in this,
the
yeah, and this is
recognizable.
just like, oh man, we got a flat tire out on the 15, and
Is that Baker? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
the
no, no.
scorpions are a little bigger in this game, but that's about it.
Because even in the wasteland in Fallout 3, when you saw like the freeway structures that had fallen apart, it was that kind of a constant reminder of what
Yeah.
had once
Right.
been there and was no longer
Yeah,
there.
and
That's
so
an
I
interesting
said that,
point.
and Abby was just like, West Coasters, and I was just like, no, it's just
Yeah.
you did actually go out to
Yeah,
Vegas.
I did, and now,
it's
pretty much what
true.
it is.
I was
Yeah.
also
I mean,
thinking-
I've been there before, but I've not spent. I'm from Philadelphia. I've never spent considerable amount of time in the desert.
Yeah.
I saw desert for the very first time in 2004, and it was like mind blown. What is this?
So the one area of the game that you actually had to play with that could have been, like you said, identifiably a world, which is the entirety of the Vegas Strip, which can take an hour to walk from side, side
And
to side
Vegas
anyway.
is a big city.
yeah.
People seem to forget that
It's
there's more
huge.
to it than just that.
And they minimize it a little bit, which is surprising to me. And we had an article that we published for Epictober about the 5 cities that Fallout could go to in the future, and it really did, I think, highlight for me why this environment is a little, like you said, just sort of plain. And
I'm
why-
excited
why
about
this?
getting to Vegas. Like, I liked having that thing to work for, though.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's Fallout.
That's Fallout. That's my, I need something to string me. Like, I don't even want to get there at this point. I'm like, I'm going to do every single possible thing that I can do without going onto the
Right.
strip, because like that's my reward.
But there isn't that feeling of destroyed civilization so much as just it's the desert. It's
right.
kind of boondocky. Like it's not quite as crazy as I kind of want out of an early Fallout game.
Yeah.
Like reality with less, Matt.
And I like the idea of like a Fallout Tokyo, but like the series is so rooted in basically
Yeah.
mocking American culture.
That's true.
That I don't know if that would
So,
translate.
what American
too well.
city would you want to see?
San Francisco,
Boise.
Texas would be interesting.
All of Texas. Largest
Like a-
Fallout
like a-
game yet.
Like a Dallas, Austin, kind of, that sort of area.
No, Galveston. I don't know why.
I don't know. You'd have to have the Alamo,
I wouldn't mind seeing a Canadian city, though.
like Fallout Toronto.
Yeah.
Everyone's just kind of nicer than in the other Fallout
Yeah.
games.
It's still a very clean apocalypse.
And there are no
very clean
locked doors.
Hypothetically, they
So-
could
so-
set it in Detroit and no one would know the difference.
Yeah.
So you want Fallout?
Wow.
Oh, all right. And with that,
Slow
thank you
clap.
so much for the review, Chris. Let's get on to our question of the week. This is from Star Wars _Enigma. Star Wars Enigma. It seems a large chunk of games nowadays always seem to have multiplayer, an open world, or it's a sequel. With a game like Enslaved that was just recently released, it seems to feature a great single-player experience, and that's it. No multiplayer, no open world, just an excellent single-player. Do you think game developers will take chances like Ninja Theory and go back to making games with just a single-player component to it? Or is it the game industry got into a rut of making every game with multiplayer or making it open world? No and yes.
Yeah.
I would more say I hope Ninja Theory just goes ahead and starts making movies.
Yeah.
Because that's what they
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's granted, last year was, Uncharted, was all over the place.
Yeah.
And
But in Uncharted,
one
you
loved
could
it.
die.
Yeah. No, but in Uncharted, no one played it for the multiplayer.
Yeah.
I mean, and the co-op was actually fun, but no one played it for, for the multiplayer. But I think that, I have no reason to believe that Enslaved is going to sell well. I have yet to understand why Namco's released it when they did. What was it, a week before Fallout New Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like, it was kind of
It's a really good word of mouth, though. I mean,
I think it may
I
stay
enjoyed
strong
it.
over time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's just there's elements of like I hesitate to point to that as like an example of where we should be going with some of this stuff because it's like there's moments. Well, even though I enjoyed the setting and the story, I want to find out what happened next. I'm leaping through all this stuff, and I'm like, I can't die. Like you can
Yeah.
never jump the wrong way. Like in Uncharted, if you jump the wrong way, you'd
Yeah.
fall and die.
Yeah.
You can't cannot do that in Slave. So there's a point of like, well, what am I doing?
you're hitting A
Why
over
am I
and over
doing
and over
this?
and
Like,
over.
But see, now, how many of you would
For one
recommend
note.
to a friend that they should rent it?
Oh, I would.
Sure,
I like
yeah.
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think that answers Star Wars Enigma's question is that, they're desperate. The game industry is desperate to keep people from returning games or just having a very short-term relationship with it that they don't profit off of. Hence, that's why multiplayer and co-op and all those things to give at least the impression to the player that it has this life
Yeah.
somewhere after, you finish the single-player experience.
Did Adam just try to teach us something?
No, I was teaching it to the audience out there. Hello,
I,
audience.
I think the problem though becomes that gives developers an excuse to not put truly 100% into either component of
No,
the game.
and,
Yeah.
and that I am not happy with the situation whatsoever. I mean, I cannot say how many games this year have co-op where I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's and how many games have multiplayer where I'm like, why?
Well,
Yeah.
co-op is the new like early 2000s multiplayer. Remember when multiplayer was like in everything? And you're why are you putting multiplayer in the puzzle the puzzle like tactical game? Like I don't need that. But then now it's like you gotta have co-op and
Co-op.
everything.
I mean, the game industry really does kind of chase after itself, and then it's only when they finally have such a glut and it doesn't have any pop anymore that we finally move
What's
from
gonna
it.
be
But I mean,
next?
look, BioShock 2
the
had
next?
multiplayer, and I don't care if it was good or bad. It's just like never once after one of the best single player games of this generation did I think I want to do multiplayer. player with this. It's sometimes it's just so myopic. It's kind of
Sometimes it comes out like I
awe-inspiring.
think Assassin's Creed is onto something.
Well,
Like,
what's nice
Yeah.
about
they
that
did
is
something different
It's
there.
Yeah,
different.
well, when you
it's
take a
different
different approach,
multiplayer,
sure.
and that they almost like looked at it as an intellectual game. How for a game that seems to wholly preclude multiplayer?
Yeah.
Do we make
Because
multiplayer?
the thing is, I only want to play the best multiplayer out there. That's like standard,
Right.
You guys know what I play.
Second tier
Or
multiplayer
I
isn't
want
worth
to
it.
play, second tier multiplayer isn't worth it. But if you have found an interesting way of presenting that is very different than what I'm otherwise playing, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
again,
it's like taco
and there's
trucks.
and the funny thing is that you're obsessed. They're all obsessed with this kind of multiplayer and team, and then there's some major opportunities in that kind of thing that they're just some companies are leaving on the table. X-wing versus TIE Fighter, like there's just branch out. It doesn't always have to be the BioShock 2 style point a gun and shoot everyone else who also has guns
Yeah.
and is pointing
Yeah.
and shooting them at you.
No, it's a positive imagination in a commercial entertainment industry.
No.
Get out of here.
Poppycock.
Poppycock. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Chris, Matt, Abby. That is feedback for this week. Next week we'll be talking about other games, quite possibly the Fable 3. But before we go, we want to make you very excited about something. We decided that we just need to start giving away games because we thought there's people out there that don't have games or don't have games that we like. So
They're
we
all
went through
5-star games.
Yes, we went through the list of the games that we've given 5 out of 5s to. We really don't have stars though. They're just so magical.
Yeah.
I love saying star, 5-star. So
stars
we're going to
in
give
a
them away
CD.
once a day, every day, starting on the 18th of October and ending on the 29th of October. So, we're going to see Tatsunoko versus Capcom, Mass Effect 2, God of War 3, Grand Theft Auto episodes from Liberty City, Red Dead Redemption, Super Mario Galaxy 2. These are good games. You may not own one of them. Well, there's only one thing you have to do. Go to the website. It's probably the website you're watching this video on right now. Go check it out. It's easy. It's a little bit of your time. And look, you might get a game out of it. Okay, so with that,
BlizzCon.
BlizzCon is coming up. That's at the end of this week.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just saying that because we're probably going to talk about that next week.
Yeah,
too.
we are gonna talk
and
about
we get to see
BlizzCon.
Diablo 3.
Diablo 3. It's in Anaheim, right?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
And if
I
you
have to-
don't
I
have
have
a ticket
to-
already, you are not getting one.
No,
I'm
I
sure.
just have to remember how
and
to drive
haven't been
down
for
there.
months.
Whenever I go in that direction, I get a little bit scared.
That's just the Irvine effect.
I know. I can't breathe. I'm like... But anyway, I will survive BlizzCon. We'll all be back here to tell you about it, and they'll be on feedback next week. Thanks for watching.
Do you play World of Warcraft or one of its 1,000 clones? Do you know what a mob or pug is? Then you'll want to make sure to check out the MMO Report. It gives you all the massively multiplayer online news you could want in a neat little package named Casey Schreiner. Check out all new episodes every Thursday over at g4tv.com/MMO. You're welcome.